I'm Steve Cook at the Summer NAMM 2016, and you're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com. Coming to you today from the 2016 Summer NAMM Show, Nashville, Tennessee, with our good friend Steve Cook. How are you, Steve?
I'm awesome. How about yourself?
I am awesome as well. I want to talk about you. You get the gig with Phil Vasser, and you've done a lot of cool stuff, but I'd like to get to that. But why don't we start from the beginning and going back to the early days? You're from Virginia Beach. And I'm curious, did you come from a musical family? Were there records playing? Was there certain kind of music on the radio? Did you have brothers and sisters who were into different kinds of music? In that spirit, how would you describe your musical upbringing?
Well, I was born in a log cabin.
In Virginia Beach.
That's right, on the beach. I'm half Italian. I'm going to speak with my hands a lot. My mom played piano, and her family is extremely musical, so there was always something playing in the house. Now, during the Beatles sort of push, my mom was...
That Beatles sort of push? Yeah, I guess that was a sort of push.
There wasn't a push in my house. My mom, and I asked her about it later, I said, Mom, did you listen to the Beatles? She goes, I did, but I was with two kids. I mean, I can't really groove out and be one of the screaming, girls with two kids running around. So my dad, he was a teenager in the 50s, so there was a lot of doo-wop that played at the house. There was a lot of, like, Beach Boys. And he was in the Navy. He was an aviator, so he was all over the world. But that's kind of stuff they listened to on the ship. So that's what I had. And then my uncle was a guitar player in Pittsburgh, and he did like a 50s, 60s review. So I had just basically that, because I was born in '70. I don't mind telling my age, but AM radio in 1977 was awful, and that's what I had was a little AM radio and Tisco. That was it. So fast forward. My mom was showing me things on the piano, and then she also played acoustic guitar. And so I would kind of tinker around with that. So I kind of started on acoustic guitar. When I was 13, a drummer friend of mine said, you need to play bass. We have enough guitar players in school. I'm in the 8th grade, whatever. And I said, sure. So I took my lawnmower money down to a pawn shop, bought a terrible, terrible pawn shop bass. Action was about this high. And immediately went to his house, and we started playing Police.
And that's the bass you still use on the Phil Vasser.
That's it, $110 bass, and I don't have a case for it, just like back then. And so I wanted to be Sting. I wanted to be in the Police at the time. This was 1983 when or 84 when they were their heyday.
Yep.
And so that's what I wanted to do. I actually started taking lessons, and he wanted to teach me classical pieces, and I took 2 lessons, and that was it. And I was like, no, I don't. That has nothing to do with what I want.
On the electric bass?
On the electric bass, you want to teach me classical. And as I look back now, I think to myself, why didn't I stay with him? And so that was one of those, moments. But I've since gone back and started learning the pieces that he tried to teach me, 30 years ago. So I was in. I skipped some things because I got straight to electric bass. I actually started on violin. I started on violin when I was 7, and then was in piano. Then I started playing saxophone. And so I was in school band programs doing that, and that's very important for me to mention because there are school band programs that are being taken away all over the country, and it's given opportunity to so many people and so many kids that wouldn't have that enlightenment, and it's really important to keep that in schools. It helped me. I played saxophone all through college, and I was in the marching band all through college. But then when I got to college, I started playing in the jazz band and started playing electric in the jazz band, nice big 17-piece orchestra, and that's where I got a big old education. This was down at the University of Southern Mississippi. Our instructor, Raul Jerome, Dr. Jerome, was a bass player and a trombone player, and he knew all the cats. He knew everybody, and so he gave me a big lesson in what to do and what not to do. My great
playing
uncle,
like Sammy Nestico charts,
all
those good charts. I did that too. It's great.
One of my favorites we did was the West Side Story suite from Buddy Rich, and
I have a recording of that.
Yeah, it was just a fun time. Again, an enlightenment for me. Yeah. I called when I got my electric bass. I called my great uncle, Uncle Frank, and Uncle Frank used to play.
Well, you said you're part Italian, Uncle Frank. That wouldn't be.
Uncle Frank. But
okay.
But Uncle Frank used to play for Frank.
Really?
And he used to play. I had another cousin that played drums for No, I'm sorry. He played saxophone for Buddy Rich. Another guy that played drums for Frank at one point. But Uncle Frank used to play.
You've got it in your blood.
It's in there somewhere. But Uncle Frank used to do. He used to play for the Rat Pack, and he was in Vegas for 11 years during the heyday, during the big time. So he gave me some sound advice when we talked on the phone, and that was actually the only time I talked to him on the phone.
What was the advice?
Can I curse on here?
Some of the people I've had before. Yeah. Well, let's do it and see what happens.
I will do it. He, not to get too in the family, but he told me he had some issues with drugs, and as a lot of guys did, back Coltrane kind of syndrome. And the only thing was, he said, just stay off the shit. So I'm 14 years old, getting my first bass, talking to this, hardened road veteran, and he was just like, just stay off drugs, just 100% stay off drugs. And I have. And it's, I make promises to my family. My one uncle told me, finish college, then go do what you want to do, but make sure you finish college. Because I had touring offers in college. And there was one I was pondering, like quitting college and going on the road. And I made the promise. And so make that promise here, make that promise here. Because at the end of the day, that's all we have. Yeah. So anyhow, there we are. That was my one bit of musical advice from my uncle.
How long have you been with Phil Vasser now?
I've been with Phil going on 6 years now. What year is this? 5.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been I'd say that gig has been, as you know, has been a lot of life events have happened while on this gig.
Life events. Are you married, Steve?
Well, you like how I set you up on that? I am married, and
okay. So. Yeah. Just a random question. How did you happen to propose to your wife?
Well, we were at a show in Louisville, Kentucky, and I set this whole thing up way in advance. I asked Phil, hey, would you mind if I proposed to my girlfriend on stage? And he was like, no, that'd be fine. So we had this song called Last Day of My Life, and there was a part where I told my wife that somebody brings out a glass of wine to him during the show. And the song says, I'm going to bring home a dozen roses, pour us a glass of wine, that sort of thing. So the show, we're in front of thousands in Louisville, and there's a pause in the song. She walks out with this glass of wine. She didn't want to do that. The tour manager was like, you got to get out there with this wine. She's like, I'm not doing it. Give it to somebody else. He's like, you have to do this. She's like, fine, I'll do it. And walks out on stage. And there is a video, and I made sure that
I've seen it.
We made sure there's a record of it.
Made me cry.
Oh, don't cry. And she's looking at the camera like, why is everybody filming this? Why are people taking pictures? And so then I proposed, and it's pretty. I watch. I still watch it. It's because, a lot of people don't have that moment. They don't have the time when they ask their wife, because it's supposed to be a private thing. It's supposed to be under a big oak tree, beautiful, perfect moment and all that stuff. And I kind of wanted to capture that just because that moment to me is just one of those just amazing things luckily we captured, get to revisit, because you can remember how great it was, but then when you watch it and remember it, it's something else.
And he got down on his knee in front of all the people.
I did. And the fun part about this modern age is that you can go on YouTube and see other people's videos of that. So you do a little search, which, you're on the tour bus for hours and hours. Hey, let's search some things. I searched that, and you can see people's cell phone videos of me,
But as adamant and as persistent as the people were to say, you have to go out there and take this glass of wine out, if she didn't agree to do that and they had to get somebody else to do it, would you have been already committed to the process? Would you have had to propose to whoever came out with the glass of wine?
I don't know that my tour manager is that great a looking for me to actually marry if that would have happened that way. So, no, and people have asked me that before, like, what would you have done if she didn't walk out there? And I was like, it's almost like I saw Paul McCartney talking about his bass, because he throws his bass at the end of the show, and and his tech was like, I have to catch that bass every night. I have to catch that bass. There's no room for error. So in that respect, there's no room for error. She had to be on stage, or else I had no plan B.
It's meant to be. So. That's a great story. Hey, let's talk about your equipment. What are you playing? Basses, amps, strings, effects maybe?
You know what? I'm old school and have 0 pedals on stage. Now, there are in-town things that I'll do where it calls for certain things, and so I'll bring some stuff out. You bring your kind of Swiss Army knife, a pedal board out to get some things. So there's some chorus on there. The Red Witch chorus. I do use Keeley compressor. There's some different overdrives that I like, and I switch out. Like the Seymour Duncan makes an 805, which is actually made for guitar, but you can get some nice grit on there. Eden makes something called the Glow Plug, and it's basically a tube warmer. So you can just leave it on all night, but there's a nice little overdrive on there, so you can actually get a really nice bass fuzz coming out of that. Stompbox tuner, of course. Basses, but when I'm out with Phil, bass-wise, I've got a few that I like to bring in and out. Yamaha BB, and I had them customize it with some Aguilar pickups, reverse P, which I'm a fan of the reverse P because my thumb, I found out after 30 years, my thumb fits better on a reverse P than a normal P. And so
rather than reverse your thumb, you reverse the pickups.
I'm not moving. No, I'm stubborn like that. So I'm gonna move it a little bit. So I've used a BB. I've got a Sandberg, California, an old style, which is like a high-end Fender.
Yeah.
And that's stock. Everything that I have on stage has a drop D hip shot on it. Because I do play 5, but I'm like I said, old school. And I've got a bunch of Fenders that I like to bring out, some different jazz basses, some different P basses that I like to bring out. I have something I put together myself that I took a slab body, put single coil in there, a telly bass neck, so it's really thin, and then ran it like down the driveway, and it looks like it's been out in the rain for 10 years, and it's awesome. And then a Hofner club bass, which is one of my studio basses as well, and that thing it's amazing. It was designed by Tom Peterson of Cheap Trick, and he's a nut. But
how many strings does it have?
It's only got 4, luckily, because
Tom Peterson. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's Tom, but he's a big Hofner guy, and he wanted a triple pickup club bass, and the club bass is really comfortable for sitting in the studio. It's got some of the same characteristics as the the violin bass, like the classic Beatle bass, but the club bass has the horns on it, so you can actually sit and play. And because the Beatle bass, it just dives.
When you go on the road on tour, how many basses do you take with you?
Not enough. No, I generally take 2 or 3, and
okay.
I'm not taking a full trunk full of basses because it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
It really is. And I don't have a tech out there, so.
What kind of strings do you like?
I use Dean Markley's, but then I also use GHS, and so I've been with Dean Markley for about 20 years. GHS is wonderful in that they pick up where Dean Markley leaves off, and the fact that they make flat wounds, they do stuff for my baritone, things like that. So, and their bass strings are great, so I'm not going to take anything away from that. But Dean Markley's been my go-to for a long time.
They're both good, but GHS is from Michigan.
They are from Michigan. Where on the hand are they from?
Well, I think people from Michigan do this.
Yeah,
we'll use your hand. Well,
that's the wrong way.
No, well, for the camera. Okay. So this is Detroit area here.
Right.
So they're about here.
And what's this called? The UP. I know that.
This is the UP. No, you stay here. There's 2 here.
Okay.
See? And you'll hear, the governor is in the thumb today.
That's
So
right.
anyway, we digress. Michiganese.
Right,
really, really good fudge up north, by the way. Mackinac Island or the Upper Peninsula.
Island. I played there.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
There's no motorized vehicles.
Right.
Yeah, fun. How about the future, Steve? What else would you like to do that you haven't accomplished? You're so young and you have so much energy.
And back up real quick. I'm using Eden amps on stage. We didn't talk about
sorry.
that. Which I've been with them for about 20 years.
I started thinking fudge and Michigan and thumb
Sugar
and
High and Sugar Cone. But no, but my rig is it's the new WT 900. I'm using a 410 XLT and a 212, so I'm getting a lot of air movement on stage. And there are other acts like my dear best friend Amos Heller, who I know you talked to. He doesn't have any amps on stage, so I like to brag. But
I guess the Taylor Swift tour budget is too small to afford an amp on the.
It's a little light out there. They need to feed them a little better too. It's terrible. No, Amos I think has played on the moon, and I haven't. So that's to answer your next question. That's
to play on the moon.
To play on the moon, I think would be the next one. No, what I haven't done. There are a couple. There's some players I'd like to play with. There's some guys I'd like to sit down and actually today. In like an hour, I'm getting ready to play with one of them, so like dream come true kind of thing. Guthrie Trapp, who's an amazing guitar player here in Nashville, just a shredder. So I'm going to jam with him here in one of the booths, so I'm pretty excited about that. I get pleasure just watching great bands and watching great players, and so the NAMM show's fun for me like that because I get to see like Bobby Vega or Chuck Rainey or something. I mean, just go do their thing for like a minute. It's like, Okay, and it's that nice recharge. But as far as things I haven't done, I haven't played Madison Square Garden, and I haven't played Red Rocks.
I did.
See, look at you.
5 times.
See, 5 up on me right there. 5 up. But how many times do you play the Opry?
I sat in the Opry for a show once.
Okay, all right, good. But that's just it. I don't really measure. I don't measure like that because I've been able to do so much and see.
Apparently you do.
No. I was just throwing it back in your face because you had the Madison Square Garden on me. No,
I stood under the sign in the entryway to the Grand Ole Opry, and I'm pointing up. I said, if my jazz friends could see me now.
Exactly, and I came from a rock background. I've got a bunch of rock friends, and I was in a band that played at Woodstock '99. We toured around in a van, trailer for 7 years trying to make it happen with a record deal. And never in a million years would I think that I'm here. And so every day I get to play music and live in Nashville, Music City. It's a blessing. I mean, it's really something special. And I know a lot of great guys, and I've been able to jam with a lot of great guys. Some of my idols have become friends, and so it's just amazing. So as far as things I haven't done, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot, and I get to go out every week as a touring guy and see a different town. I get to see places that nobody would normally visit. Nobody goes to National, Iowa. There's no reason to go to National. There's only 14 people that live there. But I've seen National, Iowa, and it's or so much of small town America. And I'm a history buff too, so I get to get out and see a lot of things that maybe normal people don't get to see. So
well, it sounds like you're leading a very satisfying, rewarding, and fulfilling life and career.
I have been really, really, really lucky. I've been in the right place at the right time, pretty much a lot of times. And believe me, I've had some serious pitfalls, as we all do, as we continue on this path. But I've been afforded a lot of great opportunities, and I just try to take advantage and just and hug your friends, hug your babies, and tell people you love them. And that's kind of what it's all about,
I love you, man.
I love you. Thank you.
I think we better stop now.
Okay. Please.
Steve Cook. Congratulations on all your success. Keep doing what you're doing. Much luck and continued success on all fronts.
Thank you.
With my good friend Steve Cook from the 2016 Summer NAMM Show, Nashville, Tennessee, I'm John Liebman. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.